Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. Today I'm talking about my 10 most expensive albums according to Discogs. There's a bunch of links down below. Make sure you go check them out. There's links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music weekly playlist that we put together, and also the Patreon page. Make sure you go check all that out. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. So I've done a couple of these videos in the past. Prices change on Discogs so much. Albums skyrocket in price, others, sink in price. So it's always kind of fun to go back and update this list and look at what stuff is really kind of up there in my top 10 as far as most expensive albums on Discogs. I will say when you go on Discogs, this is all based off of median sale price. Because if you go by just like the highest sell price on there, there's some stuff that just sells for astronomical amounts of money. So this is just looking at the median sale price on Discogs. I'll also say that I excluded any box sets from this because you have things like the Ozzy box set, which of course goes for I think the median sale price is like $1,600 on Discogs for that. So I excluded any box sets. I also excluded any kind of specialty pressings, anything like a UHQR pressing or something like that. Something that sells generally for list price $100-$150 because those of course skyrocket in price also. So it kind of skews that list. So I excluded all that from the list today. I guess I should add that, of these 10 albums, I didn't pay anything close to the median sale price for any of these. Actually, there's one that I actually paid a little bit more for the median sale price, and it's kind of dropped in price since then. But a lot of these I got for pretty cheap. A couple of these I picked up used for a pretty cheap price, and now they're, worth well over $100. At number one on the list, I think is the same album that's been number one on my list the last couple of years. It's an album that it just keeps growing in value. I'm sure it will get reissued at some point, but I've been a big fan of this album ever since it came out back in 1995. It's never been reissued. I know a couple of people that have been searching this album for a long time. I picked this up for a pretty reasonable price. I think it was just around $100 I paid for this album a couple of years back, and now the median sale price for this is $356.38. That album is Roots to Branches by Jethro Tull. Like I said, big fan of this album since it came out back in '95. I saw them on this tour. It's a great album, and it's one that if I were to pick an album that I think would be number one on my list, I would never ever thought that this album was selling for this much online, because for a long time the median sale price on this album was between $100 and $200, and I'd say within the last year and a half, this thing has skyrocketed. I think I've seen it sell for as much as $600 or $700 on Discogs. At number two on my list is an album I'm sure will get reissued at some point. I'm actually kind of surprised it hasn't already. Median sale price on this is $199.99. That is Alice in Chains Unplugged. I'm a huge fan of Alice in Chains. Of course, being a teenager in the 90s, I loved a lot of grunge music. And when grunge bands did unplugged albums, they're fantastic. I think it really showed the musicianship that these bands actually had, whether it was Alice in Chains or Nirvana was another great one. Pearl Jam was another great one. So, it's a great album. And like I said, this was released by Music on Vinyl back in 2010. So I'm sure it will get reissued at some point. And number three is an album that's actually kind of gone up and down in price over the last couple of years. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. Actually, it is my favorite album of all time. But the median sale price on this one is $175.53. Released back in 2003. It is the 30th anniversary release of The Dark Side of the Moon. I actually have two copies of this because the first one I bought off of eBay for pretty cheap. I want to say I paid like $35, $45, something like that for it. And when I got it, it didn't have this insert on the front of it. So because I wanted to have that insert, I wanted to have all the packaging that came along with it. I bought this one off. Actually, I'm sorry. The first one I bought off of Discogs. The second one, this one I bought off of eBay. I paid a little bit more for it. It was definitely under $100. I think I paid maybe $75, $85 for this one. But, as you can see, like I said, it's going for $175, $180 on Discogs. So it's definitely gone up in price, but it's kind of gone up and down with, and I'm sure once the 50th anniversary box set comes out, if that one sounds as good or close to as good as this 30th anniversary does, I'm sure this one will probably come down in price a little bit. But, this really has retained its value just because how great the sound quality is on it. And number 4 is an album that was released back in 2018. And for the longest time, well, you could get it for a pretty reasonable price on Discogs. But now it's gone up to the median sale price on this one is $170. Released back in 2018, it is Young Sinatra 4 by Logic. A huge Logic fan. I love the first several of his albums. But really, Everybody, which will pop up in this list, and Young Sinatra 4, I think are his 2 best albums. Like I said, I got this off of his website, for a pretty reasonable price. I want to say it was like $35, $38, something like that when it was first released. And I think that's why Logic albums have been or have gotten so expensive, is they're not really widely available. At least most of them really aren't widely available. Young Sinatra 4 was only available through his website. They did a pre-order, and then whatever sold during that pre-order is all that was manufactured. So there's definitely more of a limited release with Young Sinatra 4. It's a great album, though. If you are a rap fan and you haven't checked it out, make sure you check out this album. The album at number 5 has really kind of come down in price over the last year, and it's the only album of the 10 that I paid more than what it's going for on Discogs now. And actually, I didn't pay for it. My wife actually bought this for me as a birthday present a few years back. She bought it from Japan. She paid a lot of money for it, but the median sale price on Discogs, $162.45. It's one of my favorite punk albums of all time, Slowly Going the Way of the Buffalo by MXPX. So the reason this album has really come down in price over the last 4 to 6 months is because before then, the only time it's ever been available is this original pressing from 1998. It was just that, or if you bought their box set, which came out in, I think, 2020 is when that came out. That's it. That's the only time that this has ever been available. And then earlier this year, it was late last year, MXPX released or reissued this again. So since then, the prices, because before they reissued it late last year, the median sale price on this thing was, I think it was right around $200, maybe just below $200. So since then, it's really kind of come down in price. And number 6 is a fantastic soundtrack, and this was actually given to me by a member of the Vinyl Den Facebook group. It's something I really cherish, and it's an album that I really love. It's a great soundtrack. This came out back in 2020. Median sale price on this one is $150. This is the Mondo version of The Nightmare Before Christmas. Mondo does a really great job with their soundtracks. They have been since then they've been bought out by a bigger company. Hopefully they kind of continued down the same road of releasing really cool products like this. And this is on like a pinwheel looking vinyl there, but great soundtrack. I love a lot of the stuff that Mondo does. And number 7 is an album that, to be completely honest, since it was released for Record Store Day back in 2021, I kind of assumed the value of this will kind of drop a little bit. I thought this would get reissued for sure. There's been a bunch of bootlegs of this since it came out. But number 7, median sale price on this one is $149.47. It is Hail Satin by the DGs, or Foo Fighters. Is Foo Fighters doing Bee Gees cover songs. They do a really good job with it. And the B-side to this album is all live material off of Medicine at Midnight. It's one that I kind of went back and forth on for Record Store Day. It kind of had that kind of novelty vibe to it. But like I said, they do a great job with those cover songs. And at some point, I would assume this would get reissued. And number 8 is an album that I already mentioned, but median sale price on this one is $148.02. Released back in 2017. It is Everybody by Logic. It's a great album. One of my favorite rap albums of the 2010s. And so this is pretty hard to find, and it has been for a long time. Like I said, with Young Sinatra 4, these were only available for pre-order through his website, and then once they were sold, they were sold. There was nothing else printed. The funny story is behind this is my local record store, Dearborn Music, puts out a video every Saturday night of all the new used stuff that they put out or are going to put out Sunday morning. And then a bunch of people line up and go through the store and pick up all the great stuff that they've got. But I was supposed to go to the zoo with my family on Sunday morning. So Saturday night, I see this, I look at their video. It's like the 3rd or 4th album that they show in their little flip video. I told my wife, look, I'll meet you guys at the zoo. The record store is about an hour and 20 minutes, the opposite direction where the zoo is at. So I got up early, went down to the record store, and there was actually somebody else in line that knew I was looking for this that actually grabbed it for me. So, super thankful for that guy for grabbing it for me. I was able to drop it off at home and go spend the rest of the day at the zoo with my family. But like I said, the median sale price on this one is about $150. I paid $12 for this record, so it's kind of like the steal of my collection. And number 9 is one of those albums that, God forbid, if my house ever caught fire, it would be one of those albums I would grab on my way out the door. It's one of my most cherished albums of all time. This was the median sale price is $145 on Discogs, which it's not terrible for how rare this album is. I actually thought it would go for a lot more than that. I didn't pay nearly that much for it. I actually got a really good deal on it. It looks brand new, the version I have. But this is the 1977 French pressing of Pink Floyd's Animals. This is the second press of it. The first press, the record, it's all on pink vinyl. The record, I think, was a slightly different colored pink. And then this is the second pressing. And then there was a third pressing, which I think is more popular. At least I've seen more copies of it available. But it has the standard Animals cover on it and then the pink record. But great album. It's one of those really kind of cool things to have, add to my collection for one of my favorite albums of all time. So at number 10 is the third and final Pink Floyd album for the list. This was released back in 1979. Median sale price on this one is about $140 on Discogs. It's a great album. I didn't pay nearly that much for it, but it is the Mo-Fi version of The Dark Side of the Moon. My favorite album of all time. I've got a bunch of copies of this album, but not this pressing itself. This is the first of 2 Mo-Fi versions that they did. I think the second one was 81, I think, when the second one came out. I got a great deal on this one because the jacket looks all beat up. I don't know if you can really see it in the video, but a lot of wear on the jacket. The record itself plays fine, though. It's a great sounding album. I would definitely put this up there with some of the best sounding versions of this album. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. I went through some of those kind of fast because last year when I did this video, it ended up having to be 2 videos because I talked way too long about some albums. But, drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. What are some of your most expensive albums if you go on Discogs and look at the median sale price? Because it's always kind of cool. Like I said, you go on there and those prices fluctuate so much. But let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.